Now, when you look at the Mafia in 2021, even though you're no longer involved in it, is it a lot different now than it was back then?
It's a lot different. I think that everybody said, like when they were saying that Mafia is dead, I don't think it's ever going to be dead. And I think it's going to be even bigger than what it was. It's just going to be different. It's going to be, the rackets on the street aren't the same. Okay, so sports is getting legalized everywhere. The loan shark is a hard business. You're going to have a little bit of loan sharks here and there, but that's not going to feed a family, Mafia family. So they're going to they're going to adapt. Drugs is the main, source of business, but they're not going to get, involved with, them hardcore drugs that give you a lot of time. So I think they're going to stay with more legitimate, which is what I wanted to do in my area. Focus on the legitimate industries, put the garbage, the wholesale foods, anything that services, the construction. Unions you're always going to have interactions with. And, I don't think the violence is going to be there. And I think that's why they're going to get bigger. They're going to make more money. And that's why it's organized crime.
Well, I mean, it's quite a story. It's quite a story. And, over the years, I've interviewed a lot of ex-Mafia guys like yourself. And the one thing that I always hear over and over again is that essentially everyone cooperates, or people that don't cooperate end up getting life in prison or something of that sort. It doesn't seem like anyone really rides off into the sunset with, $1 billion in their bank account and gets to live the life. It always seems like, with all the murders and all the violence that occurs, at some point, somebody is going to turn, especially with the RICO laws the way they are. They don't want to do their 20 years. They'll end up turning, and everyone else gets caught up. And ultimately, you just don't see a win in this whole thing. And although it gets glamorized in movies like Goodfellas and Casino and so forth, and it seems like the Italian Mafia is the best marketed organization, best marketed criminal organization of all time. But the reality of it is very, very different.
Absolutely. And the streets are loaded with informants. Well, you're asking me, would anybody say anything to me? I mean, my whole area is infested with informants, and I know New York is too. The guys, like I said, when this guy came up to our area, the Genovese family's still intact in New York. And our area is wiped out. It's done. Okay, so that's what Artie accomplished. When you said, did I feel anything for Artie? Artie brought this guy around that destroyed our area. There's nothing. And the guys that do exist, the guys that own the strip clubs, they're all informants. I mean, it's on public record. They're informants. The guys that own all the strip clubs, even the ones in New York, Hustler, they're informants. That was part of my case with on my indictment. I mean, the list that I saw, that I had actually seen, was over 100 that went to the grand jury, that testified at the grand jury, that if they needed to call them, that they were going to call them. I mean, the streets are flooded with informants. In my area, they're infested with them. And they're the ones that have, prominent places of business. There's no active guys in my area. As far as there's made guys, there's really only one older guy that's made that's really a good guy. The rest of them, every single one of them, even the ones that went to prison, did something. We're gonna cooperate if they didn't get their time reduced, but they got time reduced, so they didn't cooperate. They're gonna blame other people for murders. You got another guy that did 16 years, was writing letters back home saying him and Bruno had secrets, but he was gonna expose those secrets if we kept shaking down his brother. I mean, these guys are, that's what you got today, on the streets.
Yeah, and if you ever take a look at any of these pieces of legal paperwork, at the very top, it'll say the United States of America versus.
Yeah.
And I don't care how big your organization is, how much money you got, you don't have more resources than the United States of America.
And when you become a target, like when I was a target, they thought I was involved in more murders than I was. I mean, I was a target once you become like that, they're never going to stop with the with that 24/7 surveillance. You know, when you talk about informants, also you can never talk about you can never know if a guy. People say, "Where's the paperwork on the guy?" You're not going to get a paperwork on a guy that's an informant. They don't just you don't have paper. He didn't testify at a court. He didn't. There's not something written. There's no 302s that they're going to pass around. That you know, when a guy's the informant, you know he's like a cop. He's walking around as like a cop would, only he's inside the crew. So it's like the cops have one of their own inside the crew. That's the informant. That's what they have, especially in my area. Guys that I grew up with, especially this one that, you know, walks around in my area since the 90s. We were told back in the 90s he's been an informant, walking around and never spent one day in prison. And these were guys that were all in my crew. You know,
Yeah.
my crew in my area.